The senator from Mississippi.
Mr. President, I rise in opposition to S.J. Res. 28 and ask to be allowed to speak.
Senator is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. And it seems there are only two speakers, so perhaps we'll be able to finish this discussion by the top of the hour. Last week, the Senate appropriated a large sum of money to fight the threat of the Zika virus. We're going to spend, together with what was already available and what was appropriated last week, at least $1 billion fighting this Zika threat, and probably $2 billion, and rightly so, because Zika is a potential health threat to Americans, and we believe it's money well spent to prevent more serious diseases and more serious afflictions to Americans. And yet, we have in place today a USDA program that is protecting Americans against 175,000 cases of cancer, according to USDA documents. It's protecting Americans against 91 million exposures to antimicrobials. This USDA Catfish inspection program that is under threat this morning is protecting Americans from some 23.3 million exposures to heavy metals. And yet this program costs the taxpayers in the Department of Agriculture only $1.1 million a year, compared to the $1 or $2 billion we're going to spend on Zika. A relatively small $1.1 million a year is protecting Americans against contaminated foreign catfish coming in from overseas. Now, we've been inspecting imported fish for quite a while in the United States of America. Under the old procedure, the Food and Drug Administration inspected imported catfish. There was a problem, though. Under the old procedure, FDA inspected only 2% of all imports. And what we found out was that in the 98% of catfish imports that were coming in, there was a lot of bad stuff coming in to threaten Americans and to threaten their good health. And so in the Farm Bill of 2008 and reiterated in the Farm Bill of 2012, the Congress passed and the President signed a change which has recently been enacted, and that provides for 100% inspection of foreign catfish, and instead of the 2% that we've had before. Now, what's been the result of that? By comparison, when FDA was inspecting Vietnamese and other foreign catfish coming into the United States, during the years 2014 and 2015, FDA picked up on a whopping total of 2 shipments of foreign catfish containing known carcinogens over the course of more than 2 years. Well, I'm glad they found them and stopped these cancer-causing agents from coming in, but think of what we could have discovered that was later eventually consumed by Americans if we had inspected not just 2%, but the whole 100%. By contrast, the USDA inspection procedures began in April, and in that short time, USDA has intercepted 2 shipments of foreign catfish containing known carcinogens in less than 2 weeks. And so if you do the math, USDA is intercepting harmful catfish, and there's no question that the carcinogens are harmful. No question we can't legally bring this contaminated catfish in, but they've intercepted harmful catfish at a rate 21 times greater than under the old procedure under FDA. And so it is mystifying today that we will soon vote on a resolution that we go back to the old way. We've caught 2 deadly shipments in the last 2 weeks, and we are having before us today a resolution that would put us back to a procedure that got us to, that found us 2 violations in the course of 2 years. Now, Mr. President, I have in my hand, and I ask to be included in the record at this point, a letter dated May 24th, 2016.
Without objection.
From the Safe Food Coalition. Let me just read a few paragraphs, a few sentences from the second paragraph of this Safe Food Coalition. This is a letter by a coalition including the Center for Foodborne Illness Research and Prevention, the Consumer Federation of America, the Consumers Union, Food and Water Watch, National Consumers League, and Stop Foodborne Illness. Those groups have formed this coalition, and they say this: starkly different catfish farming practices in foreign countries, often accompanied by inadequate environmental and food safety standards, raise significant public health concerns. The FDA regulation of catfish did not sufficiently address those concerns. I'll say they didn't, Mr. President. 2% of all imports were inspected. The others came in without a single look from the government. The letter goes on to say, as the U.S. Government Accountability Office found in 2011, FDA's inspection of imported seafood products was, quote, ineffectively implemented, unquote, and subjected to just 0.1% of all imported seafood products to testing for drug residues. Yet chemical residue violations in imported catfish are rampant. According to testing performed by FDA and the Agriculture Marketing Service, fully 9% of imported catfish products tested positive for the banned antimicrobial chemical malachite green. 9% tested positive for this carcinogen, and 2% tested positive for the banned chemical gentian violet. And I appreciate this going in for the record. I would simply say these people don't have an axe to grind. They don't stand to make a lot of money selling cheap catfish to the American consumer. They are looking out for food safety, and they say there's a starkly different farming practice here than they have in foreign countries. And it strikes me as stunning, Mr. President, that with the starkly different practices, the unsafe practices in Vietnam and places like that in Asia, and the safe practices here, that we would be about to vote in a few moments on a procedure that is very tough on catfish produced by American workers. This resolution passes today. 100% of catfish produced by American workers earning a living doing this for their families will be subject to inspection, and only 2% will be subjected, only 2% of the starkly different catfish procedures bringing in carcinogens will be subjected to testing by the government. It's completely backwards. I hope my colleagues will vote no on final passage of this SJ Res 28. Let's treat American workers at least the same as we treat foreign workers. Let's treat products grown and produced in America the same as products grown and produced in foreign countries, and let's do it in the name of food safety. Thank you.